handbook is showing up in the hospital.
Thank you.
I need it. I need the agenda.
And then
I think
I
31 pages of pure fun, that's what this is, so.
apparently we haven't filled it out.
I started on this, but I haven't.
Time to cut down.
I have a packet full of contracts to sign. And if not, you can do whatever at your leisure, the next one.
We'll get him.
Okay.
This is George Bush meeting on the
Right there. That works, right?
Oh. All right, I'll call this meeting to order. There's a little red flag over there.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is adopting the agenda. I don't believe there are any changes.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Action items. This is to approve the consent agenda minutes from the July 2021 meeting. Bill payments and certified and classified personnel action. So I'll let you guys look over it. Maybe I'll start here a little bit and then we'll continue.
So all the Tyler technology stuff at the very bottom of this, what is that stuff? Tyler's SIS.
That's your school information system. That's the one that runs all the student records and all the rest of that stuff. The other part of the Tyler technology, one, the Infinite Visions portion of that, that's our financial system.
Okay.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item is patron input.
Ready to go.
Okay.
Yay.
Okay, Lori, you have a few minutes. Talk with us.
If you don't mind passing those.
Okay.
I apologize, I'm running out of ink, so it's not really dark, but I'm just gonna read from my shred here. I saw on the agenda that safe return to school was, for students was on the agenda, so I decided to come in and give a little bit of input. When you're considering the safe return to school for our students, please consider the following. The CDC is once again recommending masks for our students and staff for the safe return to school. And I'd like to clarify that it is not a mandate. And I do understand that if our numbers go up, we would have to close school, just like we have in the past for the flu. The CDC also states that the use of masks, and this is a quote, during COVID-19 pandemic is under debate. In addition to the fact that these guidelines have been inconsistent from the beginning. The CDC also states that masks may provide reasonable protection if well-designed and used correctly. I know that high school students do not wear them correctly, including pulling them down at any given opportunity. Asking elementary students to wear them correctly all day is out of the question. Very few elementary students are mature enough to pull this off correctly. The CDC also recommends cleaning masks every day. You and I both know that many of our families are not taking this extra precaution to lower the bacteria in the masks. I've seen children wearing masks that look like they have never been washed at all. But this possesses an additional medical risk. The extreme measures we have been asked to comply with have not stopped the virus in a year and a half. This virus is not going away anytime soon, and when it does, we will have another one. The fear of intimidation has been harder on our mental health and our students' emotional well-being than it has been for any progress in slowing the virus. Shouldn't we be worried about social and emotional consequences? It is time we stand up and be brave for our kids and allow them to return to a normal, healthy school year. Health and safety is ultimately up to the family. Our government is by the people, for the people, and of the people. Please inform our families and allow them to make health decisions that suit their family. That includes respecting those who choose vaccines, masks, and staying at home for safety, or choosing to build an immune system and fight the virus naturally. Wearing a mask does affect education. Our students deserve to return to the classrooms where they can hear their teacher clearly, smile at each other, and breathe fresh air, not carbon dioxide, and which is a waste gas or bacteria. I'd like to add, if I still have time, we lost my mother-in-law this year to COVID. She was 88. I gave her a bath prior to her going on the ambulance. I got COVID. My 93-year-old mother got COVID. My mother-in-law was put on a ventilator in the hospital and passed away. My 93-year-old, who got hydroxychloroquine and erythromycin, is fine. As soon as she got the symptoms and I started her on the medication, she started improving and pulled out of it just fine. The media wants us to think there are nothing that we can do about this virus. There's a lot that we can do. And that's my story. There are a lot of other stories, successful stories out there with COVID. We need to stop being afraid of it. Let our kids live. Okay? I appreciate your time tonight, guys. Thank you so much for seeing me again.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, information reports, financial reports. Jim?
Okay, so the reports don't look real good at the moment, but that's because we have not rolled the year, and we cannot roll the year until the audit is done. So I just gave you what I have so far. And then Dawn was asking me about the child nutrition program, and the lunches will be free this year through June. And our reimbursement rate, we do not know what that is yet, but it'll be a little higher than last year.
So like, if our, our costs are going up, our food is going up, and our employees, some of our employee costs are going up, so costs are gonna go up. But now how do we get reimbursed? We don't get reimbursed on actual costs, we get reimbursed like per student, and you just take account of students per day. Is that how you get reimbursed?
We get reimbursed through, just. Yes, it would be the students and,
So it's just on our account?
yes,
And it's a
yes.
fixed-
Reimbursable meals
it's a
Right.
fixed-
and non-reimbursable
Yes,
meals.
right. So, yes, it's on our student account, so I get a report from Amy every month, and a report from Denise every month, and the total amount of students goes into that report, so yes.
And then we get money based off of that,
Yes, and it sounded like it was gonna be about $1 more per student,
so that would help.
but we'll see.
Well, we probably need it. And so, how do you feel we did last year with that? We should have done pretty good.
It looks like we're in the positive again, so that's good.
How many students in our elementary school are taking advantage of it?
It just depends on the day, but we always have some of our cold lunchers, always gonna be cold lunchers, I'd say about 15 kids total. Yeah. Pretty much good, it's pretty good.
Their lunch sounds like maybe 50 whole lunchers. It also depends on the menu. Yeah.
And if they want an extra 1%, do they pay for it?
Yes, they do.
Yes,
Any
they
milk, any extra milk or juice, they're charged.
Is there any other questions for Kim? All right, thank you, Kim. Technology director.
I have just a few things this time around. Summer projects are pretty much wrapped up. Chromebook repairs weren't too bad this year. I had one class that was bad though. I mean, it was like all of the repairs came out of one class. So.
I think I know which one.
But it was kind of some usual stuff. Now, this year, we're going to let the students know that you are issued a Chromebook and a charger. If you lose your charger, you will purchase a new one. We had 30 students not turn in chargers this last year, so we had to eat that, and that was a big chunk of change. So we put out at the high school meeting this morning that if you need to somehow identify your charger, because what I got from students last year was, well, so-and-so stole mine. And they said, well, you need to put something identifiable on it so that way, otherwise you're just gonna go to the office and buy a new one from Kendall. So that's kind of where we're at on that.
How much do they cost?
$32.95.
So the students need to be a little diligent about
Yeah.
tracking.
It's not shared, that's the problem.
Yeah, and that's amongst other things. So server upgrades are done, and then if you want to stop in and see the new full room UPS and the battery backup in the server room in there, it's all ready to go. The other thing, we sent out, we do our yearly security training that starts on the first day once everybody gets back, so everybody got that email today. There is a massive rise in ransomware that's going on, and it's hitting the education market pretty solid. I was on a call earlier this week with, there's a multi-state information sharing group that set up by the Homeland Security, and we had a presentation from one of the security analysts there, and they went through actually we went over some specific attack vectors, and so the training that we send out to everybody is very thorough. It's actually some of the best online training I've seen. It's not cheap, but then again, us getting taken down completely out is not an option. So it's best to mitigate that the best we possibly can. So we're going to be pretty diligent about the security things this year. I have a new security plan that It's gonna take me probably all year to implement. It's a very long, lengthy process, but, and seeing other districts get hit with this, one person trying to fix that much stuff is just not feasible, so that's kind of where we're at with all of that. So that's all I've got this month, unless you have any questions.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Dory, is up next. Principal's report.
As of today, we have 133 students. Last year at this time, we had the exact same amount, so I'm pleased with that. We had a few kids leave, and some are new. I can't tell you how many are new, but there's the enrollment rate there. We are down a little bit in second grade, people left, and that was a little bit of an aha. But other than that, our numbers are pretty good. Today, we had a Leader in Me all-day training with our coach, Kelly Johnson, and it was fantastic. Great to start the new year with helping students find their voice. And tomorrow we have a training for Let's Good Math, which is our new curriculum. And the teachers participated yesterday. It's called Idaho Smart. I talked to you a little bit about in May, but it's striving to meet achievement in reading together, and that's just evidence-based reading and closing that gap. And tomorrow night, we also have a supply drop-off drive-through. We're going to provide hot dogs, chips, and cookies and water. Give out information with title. After-school program, have the teachers interact with students, hopefully, and parents. Have a fun night. I'll just talk to you a little bit. It says social studies curriculum. It's starting to think about adopting a new curriculum. Suzanne Bramer brought it to my attention that she's been teaching the same curriculum for, well, it's 20 years old. And so she has something that she's been looking into, and it's called My World, and for both 5th and 6th grade. It looks pretty awesome, and it is interactive. And we got that drone training. Remember that little presentation? We talked to some folks from Grangeville, and they've been teaching this curriculum, and the whole, their K-12, they teach it and love it, and we've got some good insight from them. But I do have costs, so I just want you to be thinking about it. It looks like we can purchase, if you guys choose to purchase 5th this year and then 6th maybe next year. But so the total cost for both is up on the top, and then it just gives you a little breakdown. And with that being said, that's all I have. We'll talk about it next month. A little more in depth. Questions?
Is there any plans for that after-school reading program like we had last year?
Yes, after school program will probably start like September 22nd-ish, around in there, 14th, 15th, whatever, 3rd week in September.
Can you pass the book around?
Yeah, you bet.
That's the 5th and 6th grade?
That one is just the 5th.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a lot to learn in the 5th grade. Anything else for Dory? All right, thank you. Superintendent's report.
Okay, we have registration currently going on in the high school. As of right now, we have about the same number of kids that have withdrawn that are new students, so that's been a wash. So we expect our enrollment to be pretty similar to last year as of right now. What's that? Yeah, 118 last year. We should be around in that area we expect. We'll see. Sometimes it's hard to tell until the first day of school, so we'll find out then. Fall sports has started. We've got numbers there. 12 kids are in cheer. Cross country, I don't have that number right now. They start a little bit later, 5. Football has 20 kids out, and volleyball has 24 kids out. So we have pretty good numbers out right now this fall. That's probably as good as I can remember for a while. It's pretty good.
I'm gonna skip that one and come back to it, the Isep report. SAT information is there from this last year. Remember, with the SAT, it's the junior class that takes that. I provided the overall score in relationship to the state, and then the reading and writing, and then the math scores. And just like this, along with the ISAT scores, I'm going to provide that stuff with you. If you have questions, ask them. I'm just going to give you the information, though, as far as what the results were. And then talk a little bit about one of the things that we're doing at the high school this year. Under the district, Dory and I went to the annual administrators conference at the beginning of August in Boise. And we went to a lot of different sessions. And I thought it was pretty good this year, actually. Anyway, we appreciate the opportunity to go to that. I think that's a valuable thing for us to be able to do. Now I'm going to turn it over to you.
So, a couple things. The sick bank leave report. I passed out one for the certified, one for the classified. If you want to take a look at those. It's per our policy that we provide this once a year to the board. So, next year I will remember for August. Do you guys have any questions? They can donate up to 1 day to be a member in the bank. And you have to actually be an active member donating that current year. And we're capped at 125 days, so we can't earn any more than 125 days.
100 how many?
125?
25.
Yeah.
And we are capped.
No, we're not. I mean, we're capped at that, but we're at, for certified, it's 74 days, classified, it's 31 days. So what we have is, for the policy, if they want to access it, they have to go before the sick bank leave committee, which there's a certified committee and there's also a classified committee. They're voted in there. And they have to basically exhaust all their own personal leave, their own sick leave, and their own vacation, whatever it is, in order to access it. You guys have any questions on that?
What are you going to do with Rhonda Blair? She's just going to take the vote?
Oh, well, I have her name on the classified, because that's when, 1 year she had to donate. But she is now most likely going to, well, I can't speak for that. I'm assuming when she's certified, she'll donate to the certified. But if she wants.
And if she needed it, she would drop it.
Yes, correct. She was only current for the year she donated back in 1819 and 1920. So if she donated this coming up fall, it would be in certified, and that's where she comes from. Any other questions?
Have you filled that void that you had on the classified unit for that?
No.
Not yet. We're waiting.
I mean,
Can I have one more thing?
Yeah, keep going.
So, the other thing is, Mr. Heimgartner, Ms. Loflo, you guys have your candidacy paperwork there. I think the deadline is September 3rd, just FYI. And then, one final thing is for our ISBA conference, the annual conference will be held November 17th through the 19th, which I want to say is that Wednesday through a Friday in Boise. So that's our annual conference. They do the board, the Idaho board business, right, on that Friday. So what I will do, registration's coming up on Monday. I'm registering everybody in, no, okay. I will register the people that are going. I'll just, yeah. And it's better to have the rooms than to not have the rooms. So we also have, I think it's the Grove Hotel, Hotel 43, or Hampton Inn.
What are the dates?
November 17th through the 19th, and it's our annual convention for the whole state of America. So, and you've received emails on this, but also when it gets closer, I'll be handing out information on it. That's it. Go ahead.
Okay, so going back to ISAT information, I passed out a breakdown of grades 3 through 10. with ISEP results in English Language Arts and Math. I do not have science. And so what you're going to see there is there's going to be, with each grade level, there's going to be, the first page is a breakdown of the ISET level of that class compared to the state of Idaho. And then, and also just the number of kids in each category, whether distinguished or advanced, I should say, proficient, basic, or below basic. And then the trend line for that class, and then it does the same thing for math. So on the first page, we have the third grade ELA scores. At the top, you've got the state level of proficiency, and then the bottom, and keep in mind the district and Juliaetta Elementary School are going to be the same number because there's only one third grade in the district. And so you can see where that class lies there. If you go to the next page, it's the third grade math, same thing. There's no trend line for a couple of grades because they're just starting out. And also there was a year, 2 years ago where there was no testing. What was that last year?
I apologize.
2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. 2 years ago we had no testing. I've lost track.
It's 2 years ago.
Yep. The fourth grade ELA scores follow that. There's no trend line for that group. Followed by the fourth grade math scores, same information. Fifth grade, and I don't know if you're going with me or if you're just going. Just going? Where are you going with me?
Oh, I'm forward.
What's your
Right with you.
preference?
That's the problem with handing stuff out beforehand.
What,
People
real
just
quick,
go.
since we're going along together,
Yes.
fourth grade's a little concerning.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on, is it just a class that is a little more challenging, or is it something,
Yeah, it's big class, 25, and challenging.
but is that something we need to consider with, you know, there's still elementary, and we need to look at, we need something different with an additional aid or something?
I think we should look back at this next year.
I mean, those are pretty low scores.
So let's take a look, maybe let's take a look at every class,
I'll give this
and then
year's
let's
fifth
talk
grade
about.
class.
Okay, fifth grade ELA follows that, and then with fifth grade, we do start to see a trend line based on the last few years. There's a skip year because of the year of the personal ISAT testing, and you can see where scores trended with that group. Then that has the fifth grade math group after that in relationship to the state, so you can see they're a bit higher there. The trend line looks similar to the last group, or the last test, ELA test as well. So you saw a similar thing there with both ELA and math with that group. The sixth grade ELA scores, right after that, you can see where they are in relationship to the state, and then their trend line over the last, it's 3 different results, but it shows it over 4 years, where that class trended with scores. Yeah, same thing with the math right after that. You can see that this group especially really outperformed the state in math. And then their trend line. Seventh grade is right after that, followed by their trend line. And then the seventh grade math scores follow that. Eighth grade ELA. Their trend line continues to go up in ELA. Math, you can see that they struggle more on that test. And I will note, there's a lot of challenges with the ISAT test. I think that they are, I think looking at this stuff is valuable. I think it gives us good feedback. And I also think we have to also take certain things into consideration, like there's no accountability with this test. I mean, it often is meaningless to some of these kids, but it still generally will give us some good information. Ninth grade ELA, We're right there along with the state at the same proficiency level, and that class made a good jump over the last couple of years. With that group in math, they outperformed the state by a couple, and like when I say that, clearly you guys can see that as a whole in math, like the state is really low in all of these grade levels, and we're right there in the same boat. But it's often, good to kind of see those two numbers. And then the trend line for 9th grade, and then the last class, the 10th graders, same thing, they outperformed the state pretty well there on the ELA test. Continued to trend upward and then outperformed the state in the math test as well. One of the things that, and if there's questions, stop me, but one of the things that we're doing at the high school this year with math in particular, just because I think that generally kids get less exposure to math than they do ELA skills, just in general, at home, everywhere. For our junior high, and you parents may have seen this email, for our junior high, we're putting in an additional class, a math support class, a math lab class that will target all kids, whether they're low or high, just to give more practice, to give them more exposure to what they're doing in class. And so they'll have 2 periods where they're able to do that. And so our math teacher and also the teacher for that math lab class are going to be working together as far as how to correlate what they're doing to give those kids more support. And we took some stuff and rearranged the schedule and put in two periods for it. I was going to bring that in, I forgot to. Questions?
I just think it caught my eye as a parent when I got the scores. And then I had a couple other parents reach out as well, and said, it's worth bringing up.
Yeah.
But I think, obviously when she gets to junior high and high school, sometimes maybe not too little too late, but I really look at those younger grades, and if there's something where we can help support that class or teacher better, I think it's something worth considering. And there's a big difference between a class of 15 and 25.
Sure.
And so just something I think for the board to consider, if we can maybe put some of that in early in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade level, and hopefully we can, but I don't know, that's just my thought.
I think that's a good thing though. I think that, Dorian and I will talk about that and see if there's anywhere where she thinks that if she looks at that class, or maybe we do need to do something, either put another person in or separate or do something like that. Yeah.
I know I would be supportive of, breaking it down kind of each class, and if there's something that we could recommend and support, that would be good for the kids.
Do we have a class schedule on the website? I haven't seen a class schedule that I remember. Just one that we could get going.
Yeah. I'll actually send it out during the meeting. Yeah, we stopped putting the schedules on the website just so people couldn't go in and look and see exactly where kids are and where people are at all times.
That's a good point.
But I will email it out to you guys right now. Yeah, go ahead.
I have one more thing to mention and talk about too. We would like to have probably some board training. I know it's been a little bit of time since we've had that, or since I've been on. So I've reached out to Chrissy Lamont, and she works down with the ISBA, and she's kind of like the clerk guru. I don't know her official title.
Trainer.
She's a trainer. She's our guru. So we are going to try to schedule something that works for everyone's schedules, a time, and it'll be about a 3-hour training, and it'll be a dinner provided. I know that Chrissy would be coming up and working with the White Pine School District, and so we were going to try to jump on a schedule, possibly maybe October, November. Would a Wednesday work? I know we want to probably stick away from Fridays and volleyball games, but we're going to kind of keep that in the back of our mind for October or November, and have some a refresher course training. She said that there are a few topics to touch on. I'm spacing right now.
Yeah, you know, one of the things too we can also think about is that, I don't know what folks are gonna do as far as the ISB conference, but there's a lot of training there. And so if people, if the board's doing that conference, maybe we wanna wait till spring or
Springtime,
something.
yeah. But it's just something that we'll be bringing forth, so that's one thing I forgot. Thank you.
That's all I have.
I got a question. So like for the IT deal, did we ever look at like maybe looking at the UI, like maybe student teacher wise, maybe filling in course or something like that? Did you ever look at that avenue?
Yeah, I've talked to them, and they don't have anybody right now. Because sometimes that can be an option when they're in their last semester, maybe year. They just didn't have anybody right now. I've reached out to U of I and WSU, and the message that I got, especially from like the U of I, was that people know about the position. There just isn't anybody right now. So one of the things when I've talked with the CTE office down in Boise, they talked about looking for people that are in industry and recruiting them to teaching. In fact, they said that right now in CTE, 25% of the CTE teachers in Idaho came from industry. That was their route. And so, and you guys as well, if you guys have somebody that you would consider for something like that in industry that would be interested in something like that, by all means, talk to me about it. If you put in a certain number of hours, that can give you a pathway in. Then you have to look at what their experiences has been in, and then match it up to basically different fields that allow them to teach in that field. As of right now, with the classes where kids were scheduled in ag classes, we're populating them into other classes over the next week and a half, and continuing to look for an ag teacher. That's where we are right now.
Any more for Steve? Are there any trustee reports? Okay. There are no trustee reports. We'll go into the discussion of safe return to in-school instruction plan. Steve, read it off.
Okay, so with this safe return to in-person instruction plan, that's not my language, that's the language that they use, associated with the American Rescue Plan and what we call ESSER 3. So in order to access those dollars, we have to have a safe return to instruction plan, and it has to have certain items in it. So there's a checklist that I've provided in the board packet that shows what those items are. A copy of that checklist, I talked about it last month, is on our board, or on our school district website as well, the checklist along with our plan from last year. So the idea there was that districts would, just keep their plan on there that they have had in place, and then answer the checklist. And so if you do that, we had some yeses, we had these things in our plan, and we had some no's, we didn't have these things in our plan, just based on the timing of the plan and the requirements in it. So the idea there is to revise your plan in order to get all yeses on that checklist. So the draft of the plan that's in your board packet is a draft that that would allow us to answer yes on all of those questions. At least I think so anyway. Moving forward. Now, the plan also has to have feedback from folks. So like right now, this is a time for board to provide feedback, and any time, to be honest. And then I'm going to meet with that plan with the crisis team and go through that draft and revise it based on feedback from that group, and then we're going to send it out to people and notify people in the next board meeting where it's going to be on the agenda to approve. So hopefully after we go through those things and we send it out to folks and we meet with some different committees, we've got enough feedback on that plan that people are comfortable with it. What you'll see is that the plan looks pretty similar to what we had last year, except for there's just miscellaneous items listed towards the back of it that address the things that weren't in our previous plan that we're supposed to have in our new plan, if that makes sense. And I think really, I mean, if you look through this checklist, you're going to see the idea behind this was really to address, I mean, it's really directed at schools that haven't been in session for a year and a half. So I think we can still work our way through it and do those things. It's just maybe not, just a little bit different perspective, I guess. So I guess with that, well, maybe we should go through the plan. Should we talk about it right now? Yeah, okay, let's do that. So if you look on the first couple pages of the plan, it looks like the plan from last year where we have a color system, a green, yellow, red system, that basically helps give us guidance based on where we are. You know, we ended the school year last year in what we would consider the green category. And, you know, as of right now, I plan on opening in the green category. But there's things here that the board, at their discretion, would be able to modify if needed based on circumstances and so forth. And so, you know, I would say that the green category is very normal operation. Yellow might be fairly normal, but with some modifications to do some different things. And maybe that would look like something we did from Thanksgiving to January last year, where we had masks. You know, extra hand sanitizer everywhere, or things like that. Seating assignments in every class, so we could contact trace, things like that. And then red would, you know, if we were in that would probably be something like the spring was a couple years ago, where we're online. If you go to the miscellaneous items, these are just items that should be addressed in order to mark yes on those checklists. And a lot of it is just referencing public health or people's doctors and getting guidance from them on specific things. One of the pieces to that is that the plan is reviewed at least every 6 months up until 2023, and so and possible revisions if necessary. So I've talked with the crisis team and about this, and invited a member of the district leadership team to represent that group as well, to have these meetings and make recommendations to you guys if necessary, and so forth. But I think that's about it on that.
So do we know what the state has planned with that $30 million for that food?
I don't know.
Yeah, not idea, but and what, has there been any talk about what the situation is going to be if the hospitals can't take patients? Are we going to have to put, you know, false boards?
There hasn't been any talk of that. You know, really, I mean, you know, even, you know, we were at a conference last week, a couple weeks ago, in Boise, and really, like, there was next to no conversation about COVID at that conference by folks. And we have folks from all the offices, State Department, Governor's Office, School Board, State Board, everybody. There wasn't much talk about it. So, what are people's thoughts on the plan as it sits now, draft? And if there's nothing, then I'll keep seeking some feedback from staff members and from our crisis team here in the next week or so, and I'll bring it back to you next month.
I mean, I would assume just because we were in session as much as we were, I flexible if things change.
You know, that's one of the reasons, so with this plan, you know, some of the districts have updated their plan already and it's on the website and stuff, but, you know, I didn't think that there didn't seem to be an urgency to make some quick changes to our plan before school started, which is why we're talking about it right now and so forth. But if there ever is, if we ever did need to make some quick changes, we could always have a special meeting and so forth. Otherwise, you know, we'll continue in normal operations and then next month talk about it one more time.
Do any districts give any kind of financial incentive for the students to get shots?
Not that I'm aware of. To get shots, you said? Yeah, not that I'm aware of. Yeah. I think I've only heard of maybe states, businesses maybe.
University of Idaho just did, but it'll be in our CDC and people bringing in their vaccination cards, and I said, no, I'm not ready for them, but they.
Well, my former employer, they offered $250 on employees, and everybody got shots. So I was just wondering, you know, something to think about. It's getting expensive. You know, if you save a child or save a staff member, probably worth it.
That's all I have on that.
Does anybody else have any other comments?
And I guess keep us up to date on the sports stuff and the conference, that, you know, that sends us some things guide us, but at least what their schools that are our cities are in our opportunity, so.
You're talking about in regard to
Just, you know,
COVID?
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, whether or not, you know, if that starts to ramp up, that might.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I will.
Anything else on that topic? Okay, bus routes for 21-22, Joe.
Yeah. Ready now?
Yep.
Pam's got it on the screen, we're gonna go over the routes. You can see what we're looking at. This is the Kendrick Juliaetta route, and we're looking at about a 10-mile trip, round trip on this, twice a day. Goes down to the end of the straight stretch, is where our turn is, turn around down by Schleins. We're not having any students up in the Kendrick grade. Fitzmaurice was our last ones up there. At this time anyways, we don't. So that has helped us out in being able to shuttle kids from Juliaetta to the high school and vice versa. So that bus gets pretty full, both morning and evening. Go ahead and go to the next one. We have 5 routes. That's not
That's a
bad.
tough one.
Okay. Bus numbers that I can't see.
That's best time, 10.
Bus
please.
10, this is the Leyland Route.
And Joe, I can do AM and PM for you if you want to, so there's the morning route, what that looks like.
Yeah, Dan has some of those spots there where we're getting kids. Here's a route that I have been talked to here a week ago about going out there towards Alvin's place. Schmidt's grandson will be being picked up out there as a possibility if they sell their house. So that would be about 3 miles extra, 6-mile round trip. So otherwise, that will stay pretty close to the same.
Okay.
Yes, the next one.
It's 15.
15.
Yeah,
This is going out 3 Bear.
Back this up a little bit.
Yeah, this is our longest route. I had a call today that we're going to be picking up a student off that route as well, so we're going to be having to pick that up as well.
Probably can't. It's either all or nothing at this point, so.
But that's a pretty long route. We've got a number of students new that's going to be on that, so I haven't got a number for that particular one at this point. But yeah, I had some inquiries with some kids that went to the school up on top there.
Cavendish.
Excuse me?
Cavendish.
Cavendish School, yeah, there's one or two that are coming into Kendrick now.
17 here.
Number on this one?
17.
17. Okay, that is the Juliaetta Kendrick route again. I don't know where I messed that up.
Is that one where you had to go to Fitzmaurice's maybe?
Yeah, no, this one here is a direct Juliaetta. We're picking up there in Kendrick and then transferring down to Juliaetta, and in the mornings and in the afternoons we're bringing it back. That one is a full bus. We're seeing in there in upper 20s in the both morning and afternoon.
So then what's this up here going up towards Erie? Is that just a typo?
Is that going up towards
Yeah,
there?
that's
Okay,
right.
I'm sorry, yeah. That is not, we're not going up that hill up Kendrick grade anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been cut back, and we're going out through Kendrick and out to Juliaetta on the end of the long stretch on 17. I messed up on that first one.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
It's just this hasn't been updated.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't updated
Fitzmaurice,
mine.
when he got his driver's license, we were able to cut back on that trip up there and help pick up some more kids downtown that we were putting on full buses, trying to keep kids, separated the best we can on the buses.
This is 20.
This is bus 20. This is the Cedar Ridge route. We've got 2 new students coming off on that one too, down there in the lower section of Cedar Ridge where they've been building those new houses in there. It's a fairly long
So each
route.
letter is worth a stop?
Correct.
Yes.
Then I have it in here set up to where, like, for example, I'll take out the PM run, right? So this is what they do in the morning. They start out here. A is out here somewhere. Oh no, A is at the bus barn out here. Then they start here and they're going to work their way back. And then I'll pull this out and I'll give you the base map for 20. So that shows you how they. Some of them may reverse the route, but depending on how he has it set. But that's the full route right there.
So with that, I would ask that we would approve our routes. I'd like to give you a little information as well, that I have some year-end totals for the 2021. Transportation miles, we had 62,947 miles. Non-reimbursable sports miles was 8,750. Field trip miles was 1,107. And the route miles was 52,907. Our highest average student count was 91 in December, and our lowest was 80, and that was in the beginning of the school. So,
How are you on drivers for this year?
well, we've been blessed. We lost one. Tom Hunt has resigned. He's bought property up in the Tinsett area, and we've had Ed Allpress will be filling in for him full-time again, and he was doing some sports events last year. Kids really took off with him, so we think that would be a good fit there. We have 7, counting myself as drivers, of the 5 routes. So we're in pretty good shape. I just talked to Tom Chamberlain. He's another one that will drive for us if I'm in a short. situation. So I feel good with our driver situation. We just had a 5-hour course in Lewiston High School this last week, and it was very informative for all the drivers. It was about individuals getting on the bus that shouldn't be getting on the bus and how to handle it, and trying to keep the kids calm. And the other part was about railroad crossings, which, of course, in our sporting events is a factor, but we don't see that so much around Kendrick as an issue. So yeah, it was very good. And I would like to also share with you that the increase that we received, it has given the crews that I work with a good boost. And I want to thank you guys for that. It was needed, and I appreciate it. With that, I'd like to move on to our next project, the event center out there that we're concession stand. I did get with Cameron at 4 o'clock today. It's been a rodeo with him. He's swamped trying to get these schools done, their projects done to start the school year, is what he explained. The plans at this point are finalizing and coming together. His words are we should be out to bid in September. So hold our breath and hopefully lumber prices will continue to drop and the market will soften up a little bit so we can get a better price projects. That's pretty much where I'm at with those. Any questions?
So what are you going to do for the concession stand at the football games this fall?
Well, I think there's been some discussion with that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I can talk.
Yeah.
We're gonna let baseball go with the concession trailer for the day.
It'll be a fundraiser or like raise some money for face camping.
Yeah. Seems like a natural.
He's got a really good basketball swing. He was impressive with the tournaments that you guys have had. Wow, goodness. Anyway, he's got a trailer, right?
And we have the poles up, but no lights for the.
So what's the lights?
The lights are on the ship.
We just don't know what
Waiting to
the
be taken off. That's the fact. And I'm hopeful that we can see that in September. We do have 6 lights have been taken off on another load, and but our other shipment is actually on ship. So CEDs told me we will be first off in getting those. Matt from La Vista is eagerly to put those on, and also with the new wiring that I discussed with you guys during our walk around, that is going to happen. That new one for the wiring along the creek side, all that's going to be rewired. So there should be, once it's completed, we've got 4 of the 5 poles on the creek side, dike side, that are installed, and once we get the lights, Matt said he would do his best to get it.
So what's the other, you can put the other one in now, the 5th pole?
What was going on there is the construction on the road was creating issues with that. So he was hopeful that they could get the equipment back down when it would be optimal for them.
Anything else to do? Okay, we need
I'll make
go ahead.
a motion to approve the best routes for 21-22.
Second.
Okay, move in second to approve the bus routes for the school year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Approve the learning lab positions. Steve, you want to speak?
Sure.
to that?
So the idea here is that this position would be for 1 hour a day, Monday through Thursday, this school year, about 140 days total. That's probably overestimating it. And would be funded using ESSER funds. And I think that was, I want to say ESSER 2 maybe. So it goes back a little ways. The teacher would provide academic support and guidance to students in need. and families would be responsible for transportation. The cost of this would be roughly $5,600, that's overestimating it, but right around there. We did something like this last year. Rhonda Blair, Mrs. Blair had kids in her room a couple days a week that she provided academic support to, and it, we had quite a few kids in there, and it ended up being kids that maybe just needed extra time, they needed extra teacher help. Sometimes it was kids that were maybe playing a sport and were ineligible. So it was something that we thought was pretty valuable, and we thought it was a good use of some of these federal dollars. We do have, like the ESSER 3, for example, the American Rescue Plan dollars, there is a specific percentage that's required for what they call learning loss. This isn't necessarily the same pot of money, but it would be something similar, go towards academic support for kids who need it. Even the online learning from a year and a half ago, kids access that differently. Not every kid took the same advantage of it as other kids, and so, anyway. We felt pretty good about it, and, we have these federal dollars for a few years, so, who knows, it could be something that we want to continue next year if we think it's valuable.
It might be good to send out a note to parents that this is offered. I'm not sure kids always share, and I suppose if you're working with a family when there's an issue, you're sharing it, of course, but there might be parents who want to take it or push and have their kids do it.
I think there will be.
So I would just recommend giving them more.
Yeah, if you guys approve it, we will be doing that. We'll find some teachers first, and then we'll be done.
Is this going to be in Juliaetta and Kendrick or just
Kendrick? I should have noted that.
I move we approve the after-school learning lab session.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the learning lab position for Kendrick. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Consider suspending emergency C policies.
Okay, so those policies were a separate attachment to the board packet. If you have them pulled up, great. If you don't, here's some hard copies. These were the policies that were adopted at the beginning of last year due to the pandemic. In the last update, it was the spring update that came in the middle of summer from ISBA. They recommended boards discuss the suspension of those policies at this time. That also was before things started to take a trend upward, but I thought I'd throw it out there and let you guys decide if you want to keep them around longer or suspend them. Well,
just because something might happen and
Yeah. Things, if we had situations come up where it started to look kind of like last year, you might wish that these were still in place for a little while longer. And there doesn't seem to, at least not that I can readily seem to be any harm in keeping them around for another few months possibly.
I'll make a recommendation to table the emergency C policies.
Second.
It's moved and seconded we will table suspending the emergency C policies. This will have the effect of leaving policies in place for now. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Okay, approve the 21st suspension budget.
So there's budget there in the board packet. The total budget is $119,901, and it's broken down there. That budget was put together by folks here at the elementary, Jessica and Dory, based on looking at needs for this school year. So we're simply letting you guys lay eyes on them and provide any feedback and take a look at it, so everybody's kind of aware of what we're looking at there.
Did it change much from last year?
Well, it didn't change much from last year, it went up a little bit, actually.
It went up, since it's steady.
Yeah, this one's steady from here on
Increased, it
out.
was like 98,000 last year, so, yeah. now
This one doesn't decrease.
So
This- yeah,
steady.
this is a
Yeah,
different
this
model
just
than what we
stayed the
had.
same here.
And is this a 5-year again, like our previous ones?
Yeah, so it is kind of nice that we'll hold up the same dollars on each year.
And this is the first year in the 5 years.
Yes.
Hard to keep score. So it's supporting our kindergarten.
Yeah, so, yeah, and that's not, that hasn't changed. There's less budgeted in this one than there has been in the past, but that does support half of kindergarten salary, and then the district covers half, which is what the state funds is for, and then the district covers benefits.
Now, some of the money was going towards preschool in the past.
So we didn't write the grant this year to support preschool, as we figured we were gonna get that big grant from the state told us we had that money. And then since then, we found some grant money to support.
So the preschool is not changing, but we did fund
Correct.
it out of this.
Right.
How many kids are signed up for that?
For the preschool, like 18.
I'll make the motion to approve the 21st century grant 2022 budget.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 21st century grant budget for this year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Policy items, amendment review, and
Hey, what you guys been waiting for tonight? Okay, so these were in the spring release that came this summer. So there's some policies here that were already in place. They're recommending, or at least giving us options for amending those policies. And then there's a first reading on some policies that we'll go through second. So the first one, 1300, and these were emailed out separate with the board packet. I have 3 hard copies if anybody wants to look at them.
You got yours up.
Okay, so 1300. This update involves the review of policies by the board. It offers a new option for less frequent routine review of policies. It has also been rephrased in light of the fact that some policies are required to be reviewed more often. This is an optional update to a strongly recommended policy. So the only change there is at the bottom of the first page, and just interject if we want to discuss any of these further, if we have any issues with them, we don't like them, we want to change the wording, we'll just stop and talk about it. The second one is 1315. This update is to comply with House Bill 222, which modified the continuous improvement plan and consolidated various reporting requirements into one. This is a highly recommended policy because the continuous improvement plan is required by statute. So just a side note on that, the continuous improvement plan, I'll bring that to you guys next month as well, as it's due October 1st. There's quite a few changes with that, so we'll see that next month. Policy 1500. This reflects the change in Senate Bill 1043AA, which now requires school districts and charter school boards to take action on student disciplinary hearings in executive session. It does require you to reflect the decision without naming the student in the official minutes and place a copy of this decision in the student's file. We will soon update the clerk's manual to include sample language for purposes of your minutes. There you go. This update is required to ensure this recommended policy remains in compliance. Policy 1650, Senate Bill 1006, updated and consolidated Idaho's education laws on literacy and includes required training for new school board members. This is a recommended update to a recommended policy. Maybe next month we can review that new law with the school board. Okay.
Does it say how many hours on it?
I'd have to look at it.
Now, is this for a newly elected board member?
Yep.
Could you name board member that's been elected?
I believe it's new school board members, but we're going to bring that next month and review it, because I don't know it off the top of my head. I don't remember it. 2125, like the update in 1650, this update reflects Senate Bill 1006's requirement that all trustees who are elected or appointed after July 1, 2021 receive at least one board member orientation training on literacy intervention and improvements. After June 30th, 2023, every school board member will be required to receive this training, which will be provided by the Idaho State Board of Education. I think there's a lot of questions regarding this. The State Board of Education has a lot of questions too, so we're not behind the eight ball here. This did come up when I was interested. This is a recommended update to a now recommended policy. 2220, Senate Bill 1075 allows school districts and charter schools that use a kindergarten screener to use their existing funds to start a kindergarten jumpstart program for incoming kindergartners whose score indicates they are below readiness level. If your school or district decides to offer these programs, training must be provided to parents and guardians. Further, we cleaned up language on pre-kindergarten programs in order to make it user-friendly. This is a recommended update to a now recommended policy. 2700P. This update strikes out a reference to a now defunct program and terms used in the policy. We have highlighted the strikeout language in gray. This is an optional update to a recommended procedure. 3030. Policy language on non-public school students participating in district or school extracurricular activities has been removed from 3030 and placed in a new policy, 3031. Both of the resulting policies are required. So 3031 is in first reading next. 3330, Senate Bill 1116, updated Idaho statute on when to suspend or expel children from public school. The change clarified the definition of a weapon to align with the federal statute and exclude pocket knives of less than 2.5 inches in length. As a result, carrying one no longer causes the student to qualify for an automatic expulsion. This is a recommended update to a required policy. 3340 P1 corresponds with the update in policy 1500 requiring school boards to take action on expulsion in executive session. It's a recommended update to a required procedure. 3500 House Bill 220 prohibits any public agency, including school districts and public charter schools, from providing abortion-related counseling and referrals. This is a recommended update to a required policy. 3525 House Bill 298 now requires all school districts and charter schools to describe all immunization exemptions whenever they communicate immunization requirements. The communication about exemptions must also cite the Idaho code that allows for the exemption. Also included is a sample communication to use when you're communicating about immunization requirements. Highly recommended update to a recommended policy. So both school offices have that language that anytime they send out information on immunizations, they also send out the required language. 3570, this is a minor cross-reference update to align the policy of your school district or charter school record retention policy, so just references. 3570P, same thing, that goes along with that one, just a reference change. 4420, This update clarifies the title of the policy and removes outdated direction as to how closely signs alerting sex offenders to their limited right to enter or be near the property should be posted. This is an optional update to a required policy. It also has an updated title, which we recommend you reflect in your table of contents. 5105, House Bill 111 further clarifies that no employee who is utilizing an alternative route and is on an interim certificate can be issued a Category 4, sometimes known as a renewable or continuing contract, until they have received their 5-year renewable certificate and has received their professional endorsement. This language clarified that in the policy. This is a highly recommended update to a recommended policy. 5340, this update adds language from House Bill 222 that clarifies that individuals who hold a professional or advanced professional endorsement may only be evaluated on only 2 domains. 7408, Senate Bill 1042, updated Idaho's qualification-based standards when it comes to soliciting bids for public works professionals. This is a required update for a recommended policy. 7710, the new language in this policy update is to conform to the new requirements imposed by House Bill 66. Because the new state law, the bond or levy ballot, that does not include the required ballot disclosure as invalid, we opted to include it in the model policy. ISBA will be including a new sample ballot to comply with the law in the upcoming clerk's manual update. 8605. This is a simple reference update to conform with updates in policy 3570 and 3570P to allow for a shorter retention period for education records. Okay. Any that we need to go back to and review there? Okay, those were all just amendment options. We'll see those as action items next month to amend those policies to conform. First readings, policies 1303. By popular request, this new policy provides a list of policies that must be reviewed annually. It also provides a way to document such review. This is a new optional policy. If you adopt it, remember to add it to your table of contents. Okay. Here's a hard copy of those. It's a lot of policies to review anyway. Yeah. You could update. Well, it could also be delegated to the superintendent to review those. We review a lot anyway. Okay. Policy 1303, first reading. That's one I just referenced, 2210P2. This new procedure on health emergency related school closures supplements ISBA's longstanding procedure on weather emergency related closures. This procedure is optional. So with this one, let's review this one because we need to take a look here. The superintendent may choose to temporarily close any school within the district if he or she determines it's necessary to do so to protect the student or personal health or safety. The superintendent may close the school for up to a certain number of days. Any closure of greater length may only be approved by the board. Likewise, the decision to reopen the school following a closure of more than blank days may only be approved by the board. Such decisions shall be made in coordination with local health officials. So this is related to a health emergency related closure. Is this a policy that we want to bring back next month? And if so, let's fill in the blanks. And if we continue reading, there's a couple alternatives there. The one is the superintendent shall determine whether or not instruction should be provided remotely, etc. Alternative 2, in the event of the closure, the superintendent shall work with the board chair to hold a special meeting to inform the board of the closure and related issues. At this meeting, the board shall determine whether or not instruction should be provided remotely or via a blended in-person remote model.
I tend to err on the side that less is better. So what would we do now without this policy?
In real world, I would just make a decision on it, and then I would consult the board and have a special meeting if necessary, and then the board would either confirm that or reverse it.
So since this one's optional, probably maybe better just to stay with that.
And not have this policy. Really, if we were gonna have an extended closure, and if it's a health-related closure, you know, let's say we had a whole bunch of staff members sick. We had a couple years ago where we didn't have enough bus drivers, so or teachers, so we canceled school from the flu. It was one day, I believe. If it's one day, we're not offering remote learning. That would only be a situation where it's an extended absence. And if that was the case, the board would be making that decision to extend that closure.
I kind of feel like we've already maybe got it covered, and sometimes it's hard, you almost complicate it with the policy, so that would be my recommendation.
Okay. 2400. ISBA generally directs districts and schools to the State Department of Education's Idaho Special Education Manual when it comes to the complex topic of special education. This policy places this practice in policy. This policy or another Individuals with Disability Act is required. This policy or another individual. Well, I'm not really sure what that is indicating there, but
I don't see anything like
okay. This is what we do. I'm not sure why it's a policy, but this is what we do. 3031. Policy language on non-public school students participating in district or school extracurricular activities has been removed from 3030 and placed in 3031. Both of the resulting policies are required. Also clarified how graduation requirements for dual enrolled students mesh with requirements for specialty diplomas. Okay, just keep it as is. 7403. This policy outlines required practices for procurement of goods and services at various levels of cost for school meal programs. $74.60. Like the update in 3500 described above, this update addresses House Bill 220's prohibition of any public agency, including school districts and public charter schools, from providing abortion-related counseling and referrals. This is a new recommended policy. If you adopt it, so this is related to the use of public funds and so forth and contracting with providers. I'm comfortable with that one as is. Okay. That's all of the policy.
So we bring those back.
Yeah.
So I guess, we done with the policies, next item on the agenda is the executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
We will be second, we go on to executive session, pursuant to Idaho Code Section 4-261B. This is a roll call vote, and we call a roll.
We'll take a roll call vote going into executive session. It's Mr. Parks, Ms. Soflo, Mr. Weingartner,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell, Mr. Feldman.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We're now